Ladies and gentlemen, this is David Mirikitani with another episode of Weighing In, brought to you by USA Wrestling, the national governing body for wrestling in the United States, and by Nike Wrestling. Go to athleteps.com for all of your Nike and USA Wrestling branded gear. Grant is very proud of me. I have that memorized by now. I don't even have to read it anymore. So the boys are back, Mark and Grant, and we are joined by the site editor of Intermat Wrestling, or Intermat Wrestle, Earl Smith. Earl, you and I got to talk in Coralville. Long time fan of your work. Thanks for jumping on with us, man.
Thanks for having me on. I always enjoy talking rankings and wrestling in general, especially right now, kind of a slow time. So it's good to be on with you guys.
For sure. So we're going to talk a lot about the rankings. For people that weren't able to watch last week, GT and I discussed almost me telling him about it, because Mark and I really did the rankings together, about how hard I think preseason rankings are to do. I think they're the hardest one because you don't have any data from that current season. I know the process we used to do, like right after nationals. Earl, tell me how you guys do it so we can kind of get into it.
Yeah, so right after nationals, I kind of take your seniors out and kind of make something that makes sense with everybody that's returning, and kind of just have that on the back burner for a couple months, and then maybe 3 weeks before the rankings came out, I started touching bases with a lot of the different programs in the country, whether it's coaches or support staff or somebody around the program, trying to get a feel for what they're looking like, and adding guys at moving them up a weight or down a weight or what have you. I actually enjoyed it a lot more than the past couple years, because with the COVID-free eligibility, you had a lot of these guys that were just staying around. So the weight class basically, looked the same as it did last year, except for, the one or two guys that moved up in weight. This year we actually, take out a bunch of guys. You have some guys moving up that, finished 8th in the country, and now they're up around 4. So a lot of these weights have drastically different looks. I don't like to make kind of hard and fast rules as far as rankings. I know that may fly in the face of some people, but I just feel like you kind of paint yourself into a corner if you're saying, okay, this is the way I do it every single time. And then you get the one or two outliers where you kind of have to, go by your rules, which, one of them is, I'm just going to say a couple years ago, one of the rankings agencies doesn't take into account injury defaults no matter what. So you had RBY and Austin DeSanto, and that result was just kind of thrown out. And, just watching the match, you kind of saw what was happening. It seemed pretty silly to have that. So, I just try to kind of weigh their resumes against each other, especially when you're talking about a guy that bumped up in weight or went down in weight or coming off red shirt or have you. Good wins, bad losses, wins, losses, so forth.
Yeah. And I guess just to maybe remind people, Mark and I did the rankings for track, which, now track doesn't have separate rankings from flow. Flow also does rankings. Win does rankings. I think we have to give Win Magazine credit. They were the first ones, I think, to correctly credit the points, the team points assigned to people, including the advancement points, that a first place is worth 20, not 16, which was brilliant, I think. Open Mat does rankings. Intermat does, Amateur Wrestling News also does rankings. And there's at least a couple of them that do it just based purely on like numbers and stuff like that, like WrestleStat, those kind of guys. So it's a miserable process to start with. I think everybody should understand that. Mark and I talked about how happy we are that I'm not ruining a Sunday night and putting him on the brinks of divorce for his wife wanting to punch me in the throat for going through all that stuff. She was very understanding. So the one caveat I would say to what you guys do is, at the end of the season, like let's say 5 of the 8 All-Americans are back. They obviously slot up 1 through 5. for Mark and I, if let's say 3 of the round of 12 guys were back, and like, let's say Grant had been seeded the highest, and then Mark, and then you, Earl, we would have gone by their seeds, not by their season. And the theory behind that is like, if I'm 30-0 and I go 0-2 at nationals, and Grant is Mark Branch and had a losing record and goes in and wins 5 matches, that's what people remember. Like 20 years from now, nobody's going to remember I was 30-0 and then went 0-2. They're just going to remember Grant winning nationals or Mark winning nationals or Earl winning nationals. So that's where I think we're interested in talking to you about how you made some of these things. And the other thing is, like, it's very difficult. Like when we look to your team scores, it'll be interesting to see because, like, for example, if you add Minnesota, if you add Gable Stevenson, the team scores jump dramatically. So here's your rankings. You got Spencer 1, Glory 2, Arujo 3, DiAugustino, McKee, Courtney, Barnett, Kaler. Those guys are all pretty much all placed in that order. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And for some of these weight classes, you had mentioned your methodology. There may be a round of 12 guy, for instance, that I don't know, he loses in the quarters to the number 4 guy, and then there was an upset somewhere along the way, and then he loses to the number 2 seed. So I may have that round of 12 guy above a guy that was 7th or 8th. If they may have beat each other during the year at the Big Ten tournament, something like that.
So yeah, you're using some of that. So Mark, you and I think the one thing we looked at here was where Noah Certain is at, correct?
Yeah.
So Earl, like when we look at the brackets, Certain made it to the round of 12 and, lost to Kaler, who was an All-American, and, had 3 wins, went 3-2. We would have thought he would have been in that sort of tier of 9 through 12. So what was the logic behind him being down at 15?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not prepared. I'm getting actually my info up right now.
Okay.
I know throughout, and again, their technology is being a little slow as I'm getting this up. So
in general, does like maybe like conference tournament and stuff like that, like if he placed behind Mastro or Teskey at the conference tournament, does that come into play with what you guys are doing?
Yeah, because I have him with lost to Teskey at NCAAs and Mastro and actually Jace Kelzer at Big 12, plus throughout the year we have Teskey as well.
All right, I think this will be fun. Let's do this. These are super early, so we're guaranteed to be wrong. Let's have everybody pick. I got to write this down. And Earl, we always bet wings, so we're probably all going to owe you wings, but we'll give it a shot. Let's pick somebody outside of the top 8. We'll pick our champ and then a non-top 8er. So Earl, you're our guest. We'll rotate. You can go first. Who's your? I'm guessing your champ is Lee.
Yeah, I'll go out on a limb and say Spencer Lee.
And who's your non-top 8 guy who's going to be an All-American?
I'll go with Matt Ramos from Purdue. He was a round 12 guy at 33. We saw he had a lot of success on the freestyle circuit this spring. And, I think more at a natural weight. He took some lumps early in the year, kind of figured things out, probably, adjusted the weight a little bit as the year went on. So I think, provided weight cuts are okay, he's the guy who can move up.
GT, who you got? I'm guessing Spencer is your champ.
Yeah, I'll take Spencer as my champ. And then outside of the top 8, I'll take Teskey.
Okay. You want to make sure you can walk those streets of Iowa safely. I like that. Mark?
I'm going to go veto champ.
Are you serious?
No, and the only reason I'm doing this, Dave, is because I'm not 100% sure Spencer will be ready to go this year. He's not started wrestling yet. They said they're going to hold him out till at least second semester. When they said at least second semester, from what I heard, kind of makes me wonder. I thought it was we had talked about this, David, earlier, that we thought him redshirting this year, being 100%, getting a full season in, and then going right into the Olympic trials would not be a bad thing for Spencer Lee. So and he does so much coaching when he's there anyway, working with other kids that are in the room. I think they can keep him busy enough to really get those knees well. So I'm going to go Vito as the champ. And I'm going to agree with Earl. I like Ramos from Purdue.
All right. I'm going to go with Lee and go with Certain.
Looks like I get wings if Spencer doesn't wrestle.
Well, we got 9 more weights to pick, Mark.
All right. Damn.
Okay. All right. 33, Mark. Well, first of all, I think this was another weight that was interesting in terms of the rankings, Earl. RBY is back, Fix is back, DeSanto's gone, McGee is back, Bird is back, Myers is gone, Cannon is back, and Turner's gone. So I think like 5 of the All-Americans are back. And then the round of 12. You see, that's the other thing. It's like Ramos was a round of 12er, so he would have probably been a little higher for us at 33, especially moving down a weight. I know Courtney didn't have a great season, but he would have probably been a little higher. And then Philippi and Ragusin, so was there any sort of massaging here of what you did with things?
Yeah, so Ragusin, that was kind of a situation, like I said earlier. I know he has head-to-head wins over Cannon, beat him in the Cliff Keen finals. So even though he didn't make the podium, he didn't necessarily have any terrible losses there at the NCAA tournament that I'd kind of hold against him. So that's there. After the top 8 or 9, I think it kind of gets a little fuzzy. And it's definitely like another, if you're doing like tiers of contenders, I think that it really kind of drops from there. And then you put in Lamont and Latona, 2 25s coming up. Latona didn't have that great of a year, and he was probably one of the bigger 25s in the country. And Lamont kind of, he's been an All-American, but didn't have the same caliber year. So just looking at them, kind of, if we're picking guys, I would say that they're going to finish higher than 12th and 13th. But kind of what we saw last year, I had to pick a spot for them.
Yeah, it's tough. Moving guys around, especially when they move up, is always tough. All right, GT, who's your champ? Who's your non-8 AA?
I'll take Fix as a champ, and I'll take AA Jamie Hernandez.
All right, Mark.
Well, I'm going to go with RBY as a champ. Last year I took Dayton. That didn't happen. So, and I'm going to go with Shriver from Iowa. I think he can get on the podium this year.
All right, Earl.
I'll go with RBY, and I'll go with my home state guy and Sam Latona.
I think that's a sneaky good pick. That's who I was going to pick, but I'll just pick somebody different. But I think he's more than big enough to handle that weight. So I'm going to take Arini. He's a St. Louis guy. So nobody cares why I picked any of my guys, so we'll just keep it moving. All right.
David, who'd you pick to win it?
RBY. Sorry.
Okay.
All right, 41. So this is a weight. Nick Lee is gone. Keyshawn Clark is gone. Sebastian Rivera is gone. Grant Willits is gone. Cole Matthews was 5th. Woods was 6th. Berglund was 7th. Composta was 8th. Stevan Misick, Chad Redd, Andrew Alirez, and Carlson were in your round of 12, and 2 of those guys are gone. So this is a weight, I think we'd all agree, where you could see a lot of topsy turmoil. And, I bet we have some different picks for who's number one here. Earl, I actually talked to Brian Smith the other day, but I didn't ask him this. What are you hearing about Alan Hart and Josh Edmond and Mahler? Like, I'm guessing Edmond's going to challenge off at 41. Is that what you're hearing?
From what I saw, he might red shirt, but
he hasn't redshirted yet?
No, because he was a true freshman in the COVID year, and then
then they are going to redshirt him. Yeah, that's
so,
what they're going to do. Okay, never mind.
So you have Hart here and Mahler back at 49.
Gotcha.
But yeah, this is a kind of a weird weight class, like I said earlier, where we're having guys dropping out and others moving up. And actually, after I'll say this before we go any farther. After I put out the rankings, I got some Michigan information, and it looks like it's going to be Cole Matten rather than Drew Matten going. So that's another. Drew graduated and I think is going to med school. So that's,
you could just change a typo in there and like not even
yeah,
nobody'd even know. Okay.
Yeah.
Marco, who you got? Champ and non-top eighter.
Champ Real Woods. And non-top 8, I'm going to go with Bo Bartlett.
You've been on that Bartlett train for a minute. GT.
Yeah.
I'll take Real Woods as a champ, but I think Cole Matthews is a monster. I think like he could really make a big run through this tournament, especially the way that it kind of looks right now with everybody in it. And then I'll take Carter Young.
Yeah, people snatching up all my picks. All right, Earl, go ahead.
I'll go Real Woods. That's what I wanted to go with. And let's say Sammy Alvarez from Rutgers.
All right. I'm gonna take Cole Matthews. It's too chalky, just everybody's picking Real Woods. And I was gonna pick Carter Young, so I'm picking Carter Young. So all right, 49. So this ought to be pretty chalky on who we're picking as champs, but we'll go through here. Yanni was first, Lovett was second, Andonian was third, moving up. Gomez was fourth, Sasso was fifth, Milner was sixth, Tariq was seventh, Parko was eighth. So almost all these guys are back. So Earl, we had heard that Ridge Lovett might go down to 41. Were you able to talk to anybody in Nebraska and find out either way?
I mean, I've heard those things, but that is what I got from Nebraska. So as of now, Brock Hardy would be their guy at 141. Though, if Ridge were to want to go down, I think he could take that spot. And quite frankly, it's more of a manageable weight class, 41 than 49 as we have it right now. So that's one to keep an eye on at least.
Okay, so there's always the team thing, right? Like what's better for the team. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe for dual meets, he's better for them at 49. But for nationals, it feels like he's probably not going to beat Yanni. And so two things here. Why do you not have Lovett ranked second when he made the national finals? And the second thing is, would he be ranked number one if he was in your rankings at 41?
Probably at 41. As far as that ranking, Gomez throughout that last half of the year, his only losses were to Bryce Andonian. I think in the quarters, the quarters and the third place match. And so Gomez beat Sasso a couple times and pinned Lovett in about 20 or 30 seconds of the Big Tens.
Yeah.
So if you're kind of going straight down, that would have put Yanni, Lovett, Gomez, and I didn't necessarily want to put Lovett over a guy that pinned him like in 20 seconds couple weeks before nationals.
Yeah, and not that you care, but we agreed where you plugged Mahler in. But I mean, that's just a tough thing to decide. All right, GT, who you got?
Take Yanni as the champ, and then I'm going to take Dom Demas.
All right, a former All-American for sure. Okay, Earl.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going to go too. I liked Evan Wick in his last year at Cal Poly, and Demas kind of getting reinvigorated out there.
Yeah.
All right, Marco.
I'm gonna go with Yanni, and I'm gonna go with Yaya. I think Yaya has resurgence. I'm just hoping Northwestern gets him in shape a little bit earlier this year, and he can run the gauntlet.
I'm going Yanni and Yaya. Yaya won me my fantasy pool a couple of years ago, so I'm very, very loyal to him. All right, 157. So this is
this is the one, right?
Well, yeah, but this is just a weight that cleared out. So let's go to the bracket first. So Deacon graduated. Quincy Monday you have up at 165, which we can talk about. David Carr is up at 165, which we can talk about. Peyton Robb was 4th. Will Lewan was 5th. Ja'Cory Teamer was 6th. Willits was 7th and is gone. O'Connor was 8th. Your round of 12ers in seeding order were Ed Scott, Jared Franick, Josh Humphreys, and Casto. So, and I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it, but Brayton Lee's 1. Will Lewan over Peyton Robb. I'm guessing there must be a head-to-head there. Austin O'Connor being behind Ed Scott, I'm guessing is a head-to-head there. We would have really not done that, especially since he did win a national tournament one year. So walk us through 157.
Yeah, so as I was doing this, I knew that this would draw questions, and I didn't really have any great solutions, to be honest. As you said, there was a head-to-head with Lewan beating Robb, even though that was the 4-5 finish. And then, there are guys like Spencer Lee and AJ Ferrari, who I've put back in, who were injured and didn't missed the last part of the year. So Brayton Lee fell into that category too. And so, okay, I got to stick him in somewhere. Well, he has head-to-head wins over the 2, 3, 4 guys. I think Teamer beat him when they were redshirting way back in the day now. So I felt like anywhere I stuck him in, unless, you're putting him like 7th or 8th, it wasn't kind of representative of the results. So, and again, there isn't, there's O'Connor, who was a national champion 2 years ago at 49, but there was those guys that cleared out, like you mentioned, your top 3 guys. So, I think it's kind of imperfect weight class, imperfect ranking right now. But that's Lee's who I chose to go with. And there was also, I got a few questions about the ACC guys there with Andonian, Scott, O'Connor. And this is kind of where sometimes with rankings where, your eyes and when you know what's going on kind of doesn't necessarily mesh with the results, because Scott did beat O'Connor in the ACC finals, as we all saw at the NCAA tournament. O'Connor was clearly not himself. He was, bad knee injury. So I don't see that 7 for O'Connor holding for very long.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So, and just low key, we talked about this last week, GT, right? How good the ACC is at this weight, 5 in the top 12. And I think they only have 6 schools in the conference, right?
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So, Earl, do we have confirmation Monday and Carr are moving up?
So Monday, what I was told is it's more than likely that he's going to be at 65. So they kind of left the door open that he could be at 57, but I think that's going to be one we're going to have to check in on, a month before the season to see, if he's gaining weight like they assumed he would, or if he's actually lighter than they thought. So, that's a one thing with these rankings, putting them out in late June. I wanted to have kind of the most research, most accurate information as far as that goes, almost more so than, arguing about 4 and 6, for instance. I wanted to have guys, at the correct weights. And this year we saw, and I guess we'll probably see it for the next couple years, guys who have eligibility who choose not to use it. That's something we really never had to factor in or, research in past years. So just wanted to, kind of throw that out there. And, Carr, that's kind of where it seems like everything is pointing with Mark
and GT are both plugged in up there in Iowa, and they said in multiple media sources that's what's going on. And I actually was with Kyvan Gadsden last night, and he told me the same thing. So, all right, Earl, kick us off. Champ, non-top eighter.
Okay, so I will go with Austin O'Connor and Doug Zapp.
Okay. GT.
Dang you, Earl. Man. Taking my sleeper picks, man. Gosh, dang it. All right, fine.
You can take the same thing. It's okay.
No, it's not. Okay. All right. So, I'm going to take Ja'Cory Teamer for my champ.
What the hell with you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, guess what? I'm stealing everybody's Christmas right now. It's just what I'm going to do.
Go ahead.
Right. So that's my champ. And then outside of the outside of top 8 guys, I am going to take Doug Zaff because I have to. He's a good dude, and he had an amazing freestyle season. I just think that he's on a good trajectory to go through season this year.
All right, Mark.
Grant, explain something to me. Who's not a good dude in the top 19 that I can see right now?
He just knows him. He knows him personally. We're not attacking people's character, Mark.
Okay, all right. Just want to make sure I understood that. Okay. All right, I'm going to change it up a little bit because I think this is actually a weight, David, and we probably haven't really talked about it. It would not shock me if any of those guys in the top 8 were national champs. It's going to be that kind of a weight this year. So I'm going to go with Brayton Lee from Minnesota just because he looked really good last year before he got injured. I thought he did. I thought he could have, would have been in the contention. And then I am going to go – this is a tough one because I don't want to pick what everybody else has picked. I'm going to go with Kendall Coleman from Purdue being an All-American.
All right. I don't know if this will happen. I really was going to – all right, I'm going to pick Teamer because that's who I was going to pick. But I think it'd be freaking awesome if Bryce Andonian was in the finals just because of how he wrestles. Like, that will not be a 3-2 match. He might get pinned or he might win 14-12, but I think that'd be awesome. The one thing, Earl, that I saw here is that Wyatt Sheets still has eligibility. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I had to double and triple check that one, and that was one I actually had someone else in there, and then I got late information that he has eligibility now. There may be a chance that they have kind of some weight shifting, and he's at 65, but that's kind of what we're working with now.
Okay, so that's actually I was going to bring this up. So I'm hearing that Whitlake is going 84. So if that were the case and Sheets went to 65, who would Oklahoma State wrestle at 57? Like Ferrari or Jordan Williams right away?
Either one of those guys or your incumbents is probably Jalen Harper as your guy. He had some decent enough results and would have been in the top 33. I don't rank true freshman out the gate, so I probably would have gone with him. But it wouldn't surprise me if one of those true freshmen gets it.
Gotcha. All right, super juicy weight here. Keegan O'Toole first, Griffiths second, Evan Wick is gone third, Amin was fourth, Marinelli was fifth, he's gone. Hamidi is sixth, Karchla seventh, Hall is eighth, Wenzel rounded 12, McCoy rounded 12, Ramirez rounded 12, Canigliaro rounded 12. So, and then you add David Carr and Quincy Monday. This is super spicy. Like, let's just get to the picks. GT, I'll let you go first so nobody can steal your pick. Who you got?
Oh, well, I mean, once again, I would just like to preface that probably everybody in the top 8 are just pure dogs. Like any of those dudes could make the finals, or
Yeah.
this just weight is completely loaded. So, I mean, I'm going to have to take David Carr as my champ. Go Iowa State. And then based off of like kind of all the other information, I'm going to take a very big sleeper pick in Facundo. I mean, Penn State just continues to like produce at the freshman like age category. Like they just sneak their way through somehow. So that's going to be my outside of the top 8 pick.
Well, I'm going to say this. I literally guessed you were going to say Facundo, and I'm guessing Mark's going to pick Patrick Kennedy as his sleeper. Mark, go ahead.
Well, okay, I get a pick now, David?
Yeah.
You don't want to pick for me?
I've been going last every time.
I know.
Go ahead.
I'm going to take Keegan O'Toole as champ. I just think he causes so much problems for anybody in this weight bracket.
Okay.
And then I think
I'm gonna be shocked.
this is a tough one. I would shock you if I picked who I think I'm going to pick. So I'm going to go Patrick Kennedy and make everybody else happy that I'm picking an Iowa kid.
Who was your second? If you hadn't picked Kennedy, who would you have picked?
Probably Whitlake, but I'm not sure he's going to be at this weight. That's the problem.
Yeah, he's not going to be there. All right, Earl.
Yeah, so I mean, this has potential to be one of the better weight classes we've seen in quite a few years. And hearing after the fact that O'Toole was kind of banged up and still didn't give up a point till the finals, I've got to go with him again. And Grant and Mark kind of stole my thunder with those were my 1 and 2 guys.
Go ahead and take them. Don't be wrong. If you like them, you like them.
I don't even know who I bump out of the top 8, but I do feel like both of those guys can AA this year. So I'll go with Facundo. That was my first pick.
All right. I think we should point out, and somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, this weight class has 3 national champions and a finalist in it. Is that correct? O'Toole's won it, Griffith has won it, Carr has won it, Monday made the finals.
Yeah.
This weight's sort of the opposite of 141, where there's no finalists there. So, all right. I live in Missouri. Keegan did a clinic for me. I'm going with Keegan. And this is super chalky. I mean, everybody likes Facundo and Kennedy, but I'll just take Ramirez. It's the cheat code there. He's 9. He only has to slide up a spot. So we'll go with that. All right, 74. Maybe one of my favorite matches to watch in the finals. Starachi 1, Mackay 2. Hidley or Hidley, however you say it, was 3rd. He's gone. Kemmer's 4th. He's gone. Massa's 5th. He's gone. Plot 6th. Lab 7th. Lout 8th. Okay. Then your rounded 12s were O'Malley, Hastings, Mako, and Ethan Smith. So I don't know whose turn it is to go first. Earl, go ahead. Who you got?
Okay. I'll go with Carter Starocki, and actually, and I'll give you one more disclaimer. Once I said Michigan checked in with me late. I've been told since then that Matt Finesilver will be at least 184. So that's a guy.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a guy to cross out there.
Okay.
And at least is interesting to me as well. So,
yeah.
And I will go with Chris Foca. He wrestled Starocki close in that duel, and he's had some good results. And I think the other interesting thing is number 7, Demetrius Romero. That's a guy that wrestled for, I think, 2 years at Boise State, to say how long he's been in college wrestling.
You did some post like is this his 8th year in college?
I believe so.
Year out of high school, rather.
Yeah. Yeah,
and there was a rumor he was going to go down to 65. So that's interesting.
Yeah, okay. I don't feel like a guy in his 8th year that's had a bunch of injury issues, probably cutting down to 65 is probably not the best idea. But
that's a really good point. All right, I don't even know who. GT, go ahead.
All right, I'm going to take Mackay Lewis as my champ. And then I'm going to take Cade DeVos for SDSU.
You're good on the streets of Iowa for a while, I'm telling you. All right. Mark,
Yeah,
who you
man.
got?
I'm going to go Starachi, and I'm going to go with Nelson Brands.
I was going to say that. Thought you were going to have Nelson Brands winning it, but okay. All right. I'm going to go with Starachi and Foca for all the reasons that Earl said, way better than I could have ever said it. So, and I think he would have been seated a lot higher nationals. He had that weird loss to Adam Kemp early in the year at Cliff Keen that kind of screwed him up all year. Okay, 84. I think one of your bigger favorites, Brooks, won it. Amin is gone. Keckheisen is back. Truax is back, but I think you have him moving up. Is that correct, Earl?
That is correct. Big weight movement from Cal Poly.
Yeah, okay. Heidley's back, Romero's back, Coleman's back, Lowe's back. So this, yeah, and then all right. So, Mark, who you got?
I'm going to go Aaron Brooks. And, let's go. I'm going to go Hunter Bolin.
I like that pick. GT.
I'm going to take Brooks. Brooks is the champ. And then outside of that, I'm going to take Tate Samuelson from Lehigh.
So we should talk about this real quick. First of all, great pick. Not that anybody cares, in my opinion, but Lehigh is loaded up in the portal this year, getting Samuelson, getting Beard, and there's also Montalvo. This weight's got a ton of movement. And as you mentioned, Earl, and I know you're coming up here, but Kemp moves up a weight class too, and Truax moves up. So they're not worried about cutting weight in Cal Poly, just worried about getting better. So, Earl, who you got?
I'll go with Brooks and Assad.
Okay. I'm going
Good
Brooks.
pick, Earl. Good pick, Earl.
I'm going Brooks. I'm going Bolin. All right. 197. So this is interesting. So Max Dean first, Warner second, Buchanan third, Elam fourth, Bastida fifth, Hoffman sixth, Schultz seventh, Bolzak eighth. Round of 12 was Woodley, Dupre, Bonacorsi, Aiello. Schultz is gone. Aiello is gone, I believe.
Yes.
Okay. And Woodley still has another year of eligibility. And then we add Ferrari. So just curious, Earl, and you can go first here. Any thought on ranking Ferrari 1?
Definitely, kind of from my blueprint with 57 and bringing Lee in there, it was definitely something I considered. But with like 57, they didn't have that one guy that was returning as the national champion like Dean. So went ahead with him, one loss season. So.
And then my other question would be is, based on your criteria, did you think about ranking Bastida ahead of Elam since he had some head-to-heads over him?
Yes, for sure.
Okay.
And also Jake Woodley, I've been told that he probably won't use that year and might go into MMA. So that's why he's not there at all. Yeah.
And the other person that comes in here is Beard, who is really good and had All-American to Penn State before the Max Dean transfer, made the finals of the scuffle and had the injury. He was losing, to be fair, but the injury defaulted out against Rocky Elam. Do I have all that correct?
That is correct.
All right. GT, who you got?
Ferrari is my champ and Beard as my just out of top 8.
I'm going to go first one of these times, so I'm not stealing everybody else's pick. All right, Mark, go ahead.
Just put me down with what Grant said.
Me
I'm not
too.
even going to explain it. I'm just going to go with it.
All right, Earl, go ahead and see if you do something besides what the Three Stooges did over here.
I'm going to go with them, though, talking to Willie and listening to his show for the last, couple months, he's still kind of skeptical on whether Ferrari will totally be back with OSU. So I'm
Be
picking
back
him
with
now.
OSU. Wait. You think he might leave OSU?
I don't know. I think it's maybe a possibility. I don't
Where
know.
would he go?
No, I don't know. That would be very, very interesting recruitment. But
Yeah, Graham, you could use a 97 pounder.
Or a lot of credits transfer, you know what I mean?
That's the line of the day. A lot of credits transfer, Oh my goodness, that's great. All right, here we go. Heavyweight. Gable Stevenson 1, Colton Schultz 2, Jordan Wood, who's gone, was 3rd, Kirk Fleet was 4th, Paris was 5th, Davison was 6th, Cassiope was 7th, Lance, Missouri guy at Nebraska, was 8th. He's gone. Fernandez rounded 12. Gas Tank Gary was rounded 12. He's gone. Orendorf's rounded 12. Elam was rounded 12. So, I think the thing that shocked me here was I was surprised by Cassiope over Davison, but I get it. But Slavikowski that high, help us with the logic behind that.
Just his last matches he wrestled were at Cliff Keen, and he beat Davison and Orendorf. I think it might have been decisively too. He beat both of those guys head to head. So
gotcha. And then Hendrickson gets the nod over Elam, and I don't know how on Fernandez. Oh, he beat Fernandez head to head at Scuffle, and then he placed ahead of Elam at the Big 12. Is that the logic there?
Yes, sir.
Look at me knowing like one thing of a podcast. That's what I try to do, one nugget. All right. I'm going first.
Oh, well, that's good.
My champ and guy not in the top 8 is Gable.
So you just have one pick?
No, I picked him for both slots. He's not on. He's going to win it, and he's not in the top 8 right now.
Oh, is he coming back? Is he really coming back?
Hey, you picked Vito based on Spencer Lee not coming back. We all got to make choices.
No. I picked Vito to win the weight. I don't think Spencer will wrestle. I'm not saying that this guy's coming out of the closet and returning after he put his shoes on.
Wait, let's use a different phrase than coming out of the closet. Okay. We're just saying he's coming back on the mat.
He left his shoes on the middle of the mat, David. That means you're retired from collegiate wrestling, not world championships, hopefully, but
okay.
Okay.
We're just going to use a different phrase.
In front of me. I'm going to go with what I have in front of me. I'm going to take Paris to win it.
Okay.
I think he was hurt last year. I think he's going to be healthier, and I think he's going to be hard to beat. And outside the top 8, this is going to be a tough one. I really want to pick Elam, but he just doesn't get it done. I'm going to go with Hilger from Wisconsin.
All right, GT.
All right. I will take Colton Schultz as my champ / Gable, which would be my outside of top 8.
You can make Gable your non-top 8. That's an easy.
That's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to take Schultz to win it. I'm going to take Gable to be outside of my top 8. But if I have to look at the screen and determine my pick from here, I'm going to take Luffman as my outside top 8 guy to get into the top 8 as it sits currently.
I like that. By the way, when you're doing interviews at nationals, you miss a lot of wrestling. I saw a clip. I'm sure you saw it, Earl, you saw it, where Luffman had Cassiope in a cradle and just rolled, and just Cassiope just like kept rolling and ended up on top, or that match could have went really differently. So, Earl, who are your picks?
Yeah, like Grant said, as it sits right now on the screen, I'll go with Kirkfleet and Elam. But you have that Gable lurking.
Yeah. All right. So the team race thing here, we'll just look at this real quick. So Penn State, you have clearly ahead. Iowa, you have clearly ahead. The interesting thing is if Lee doesn't wrestle, you do the 2016, 13 and a half on down, Earl. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So it's safe to say if Spencer Lee didn't wrestle, they would drop down to 53 points, and then maybe add Ayala in, and maybe he's like at 54, 55, give or take. And they're in that whole mishmash between 5, 6, and 7. There's a bunch of things that are super interesting here, but let's do this. Let's pick our top 4 teams. And Earl, you're our guest. You can go first.
I will go with I'll go with Penn State, Iowa, Arizona State, and Minnesota. So yeah, we'll go with Minnesota.
That's kind of okay. GT.
I'm going to take Penn State, Arizona State, Minnesota with the caveat that Gable comes back. And then I'm going to probably take Ohio State.
You don't have Iowa in your top 4.
Yes, David.
I'm just making.
You're going to put me on blast there? Absolutely. Like, I'm just going to sneak that through. No, guess what?
That's just so inside what you just said there.
Well, I think with Iowa, it has a lot of potential to be in the top, like to win it. If Spencer comes back and is healthy, which is a question mark, then injuries, of course, being what they are, because in the middle, there's a lot of, maybe unproven in the varsity lineup talent for them. But yeah. I think Iowa, with the team that they could potentially have, could definitely win it. But I could also see them being like right on the verge of like a 3rd, 4th, 5th category.
Yeah.
But a lot of those Ohio State young kids, I think, get into the lineup and like punch through, kind of like how Hoffman did. So that's the only reason I say that, is just to kind of be on the outside looking in a little bit. Yeah. But if Minnesota doesn't have Gable, then it's Iowa goes in there rather than Minnesota being my 4th team. Because that's kind of where I have them at, is like that 4 or 5. So just to preface that, just to make sure that the entire world knows that is the reasoning behind it. Because I think legitimately whoever wins it in 2nd, 3rd, 4th, I think it's going to be a way tighter race this year than it was last year.
Yeah.
Because I think Penn State loses a lot. They lost a lot of their hitters too. Even though they're going to have like 4 or 5 guys in the finals again.
It'd be fun to make a side bet on whether or not they lose the Big Ten and win the Nationals. They're really good at doing that. All right, Mark, who you got?
I'm going to go with Penn State 1. I am going to go with if Spencer doesn't wrestle, I really have issues here. I'm going to go with Arizona State 2. I'm going to go Ohio State 3, and I will go Iowa 4.
All right, I'm going to go Penn State 1, Arizona State 2. I'm going to go Iowa 3, and I'm going to go Missouri 4. Okay. Earl, anything else? It's nice being at USA Wrestling where we can actually talk about other people's channels and websites and things like that. And Mark and I have talked about that. It's nice. We're sort of we're Switzerland, so it's very nice. So if people want to follow you, how do they do that? Either on social media or on Rockfin or on Internet.
Yeah, site Internet Wrestle, Rockfin is Internet. The Twitter account, Internet, myself, Earl B. Smith 20 on Twitter. I'm usually pretty frequent on there. So, interact with me however you'd like. I'm always up to talk wrestling, and as you can see, baseball as well.
Yeah, the Nats are, it's rough, right?
They got win number 30 last night, which is.
Does that make them like 30 and 50 for real? Is that like about where they are?
I think 30 and 54. So
okay.
Sounds like ready for a 24-game winning streak to get back to 500.
Get back to 500. Oh my God. They got real. You said that, and GT and I both cringed. Like, ugh. I don't know when you're mathematically eliminated.
It's not that out of the box to be like, you know what, guys, we're just going to go on a run here. Like, just 24 in a row.
The Cardinals did that a couple years ago. Maybe it was last year, the year before. They were like a 500 team and then won like 19 in a row, gassed themselves out like we see in wrestling matches, and then just got killed in the playoffs. So, all right. So listen, Earl, this is it was great having you on. Really appreciate you and Goodwin, the time and the knowledge up in Coralville. It's that's the first time I've sat on press row really for any length of time. So that was a lot of fun. Thanks to Gary Abbott. And anything else, Mark or GT, before we sign off?
No, I guess next week we'll talk about the new divisions and
Conference realignment.
athletics. Yeah.
I got notes, but I think it'll probably change by next week. If my notes are right, the Pac-12 is down to 4 teams.
Well, these schools have not accepted bids into the Big 12, and I don't.
All right,
I don't know
GT, you look like you want to say something about this. Go ahead.
I don't know if that's going to happen or not. Grant, what do you think?
Well, I to be completely fair, you're not going to see the last of the conference realignments anytime soon. I think that there's only going to be more and more changes to the mid-majors and or the Pac-12 just completely dying in general. Yeah. So I think there is a opportunity for a lot of conversation pieces, which again, we can get into next week for sure, on conference realignment. What does that do for the sport? What does it do for Olympic sports? Because the one thing I'll say about the conference realignment that is benefiting Olympic sport categories is the TV deals, that the money from the football that is bringing in order to fund the Olympic sports categories for both men's and women's athletics. So if you're upset about the conference realignment, like, please rethink again. The money that is getting brought into those schools based off the TV revenue for those Olympic sport categories, especially within the Pac-12, this is a good move for Olympic sport athletics based off the money that football is going to be bringing in to then fund all of them. So if it helps, then maybe we have more revenue in order to then, maybe get some more wrestling programs within the Big 10, Big 12, potentially even the SEC if that kind of stuff happening. Because we'll now have 2 wrestling programs within the SEC now.
OU and Mizzou.
OU and Mizzou, that are officially SEC sanctioned schools or conference affiliated schools. So once again, I would love to discuss that next week, but we're also going to have Fargo and we're going to have all this other stuff, and it's going to change. The landscape's going to change tremendously. Oh boy.
I will say this. It's first of all, the insight's great. Second of all, it feels like it's a good 2-way go where they might add more men's teams, but also add more women's teams, which is awesome. Third of all, I'll just say this. So happy to be at USA Wrestling because one year I was told not to talk about Fargo because we didn't have the streaming rights, which was like the craziest instruction I've ever gotten in my life on a podcast. Like, we're not going to talk about the biggest tournament in our country in terms of numbers. We're just not going to mention it. So it's nice to sort of be out of that fray. Earl, thank you. Mark and GT, your guys are my guys. Thanks everybody for watching and listening. We will hit stop recording and see you all next week.